Was it a role that I was interested in? Yes. Is it a role that I could have done well in? I think a couple weeks later I received a rejection from them, but nevertheless
Oh,
I was not disappointed by it at all
yeah,
because
of
I was
course.
never gonna take it. If you can make yourself self-reliant in these
Yeah.
situations, nothing's better than that. You know what they say? Desperate times call for.
Sitting through the weirdest, wildest job interviews just to get your foot in the door.
From scam calls to sketchy offers, I've seen it all. And if you've been there or you're there, this one's for you.
This is Desperate Times. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Desperate Times. Today's episode is literally about desperate jobs because let's be real, when you're broke, stressed, and hunting for work, you end up in some wild, desperate situation. And honestly, some of your job hunting stories are too good not to share, Varun. So let's start with a one that sounds like a joke but really isn't.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And I feel like even in just conversations around with friends, I have like teased this a couple months before, being like, hey, I have a story, but I feel like I'll share this at some point in time in my podcast. So if you want to find out, you've got to tune in. So I've teased it for a while and it's going to be fun getting into it. And I feel like in general, in this episode, there's going to be so much to talk about that I can't even. I'm very excited and I don't even know where to begin. But maybe let's start with this one for now. So,
Yeah.
how I might want to take this just to make this a little more fun to listen to is to begin with, I'll tell you what the content. Why am I saying content? I'm already getting into the story ahead. To begin with, what I'm going to do is I'll tell you the job title, and then I'll tell you what the job description was, and then I'll get
Okay.
to what it actually was. Because I feel like when you hear the
Hmm.
job description, you're not even gonna guess what it really is.
And for
Okay,
anyone watching or listening, you all should comment what it is and then wait for Varun to reveal it when he does say the job description. So it's like a little competition for you guys even to guess if y'all get it right.
yep. Let's go for it. I'm going to read this out of my phone because I obviously don't remember this word for word.
Let's go.
But the job title itself, if I remember correctly, and I don't have it right now in front of me, but I think it was
Hmm.
content formatter.
Before
I'll,
we get into the whole thing, let's give people a background. For anyone who's not watched our previous episodes, we
Mhm.
are talking about jobs in marketing because that's where Varun and I are at the moment. So, content formatter, marketing manager, you'll hear all those things. So,
Yep.
if y'all haven't watched those episodes, go back, watch them, just so
Yep.
some context for you guys.
And these are context clues for anyone who's trying to guess as well. Because again, reminding you what you're trying to guess here is what the company is or what they do.
Yeah.
So, going for it. What you will be doing: meet daily requirements and assure constant product quality. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on reaching KPIs every day, hourly KPI 21 to 25 videos per hour, and category predictions of 70 to 75 videos per hour. Capability to
Category
meet,
prediction.
I had no idea what that even meant. Capability to meet quality standards, weekly reviews along with set targets. Need to
Mm-hmm.
verify metadata and thumbnails chosen by the user.
Okay.
Watch video content to ensure that it meets quality standards and verify the accuracy of the metadata.
Seems pretty straightforward till now.
Seems straightforward, right? Data entry. Formatters must log the tasks they complete, including the duration and or quantity to maintain this is going to sound so boring. To maintain up-to-date task lists and coordinate with the team to avoid overlap. Assure deliverance of best product
Okay.
quality whenever possible. Maintaining a strong team effort among your
Mm.
co-workers. Keep up with the market's evolutions while always working towards reaching your products short, medium, and long-term goals.
Okay. So,
So at the face of it, sounds pretty straightforwardish, right?
yeah, it does. It sounds like any other marketing job where your job is mainly quality assurance, making sure work's happening, the regular stuff. But what product are they really referring to here?
So before I even dive into and reveal it, while I'm giving people a little bit of like time to think about what it could have been, but I'll get into how I really got to this job. As you're saying, our
Okay.
podcast is all about desperate times. So what at that point in time was happening for me, this is a couple months ago, where I was just looking for jobs in the market, and as one does, applying to every possible job that we see out there.
Mhm.
Every listing is a possible opportunity, and what that tends to do is you just blind apply. where you're like, I have my CV, title seems appropriate, the description seems okay. Sure, I guess that's what it is.
Yeah.
And this is what exactly happened with this job. Before applying for this, I did not look into what the company was. I probably didn't even notice the name of the company. I just saw the job title, the description. And as we already discussed, looks pretty standard, looks okay.
Yeah.
But what happened maybe a few weeks after this application is that I received an email from them saying, hey, we're willing to set up an interview. And that's when I actually got into like, okay, now that
Researching.
there's an interview set up, let's actually look into what I applied. Because, and I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure any person who's in the job application situation knows that you have no idea what you're applying for
Mhm.
sometimes. You just go for it. And when I looked up the name of the company, name dropping here, the name of the company is Aloe. And for the
Okay.
uninitiated, which even I did not know about, this company is the parent company of multiple porn websites, much like Pornhub.
What?
So now let's look at that same job description and kind of jog back to what it meant essentially. Is that as a content formatter at a company like Pornhub, what I was being interviewed to do is watch a fuck ton of videos every day. And when I'm saying videos, watch a fuck ton of porn every day.
No.
And then go through the entire video, make sure from a marketing POV that
Quality
everything is looking
assurance.
okay, quality assurance, metadata, all that jazz is all in context to porn videos. If they're asking me to check thumbnails, I'm checking thumbnails of porn videos. And this is something I had no idea what I really applied for. And funny story, nobody in my family knows I've given this interview till date. So this podcast is going to be a revelation for them as well.
No, like, wait, what did you do again? What was the job? But
Mhm.
wait, the job description mentioned quality assurance, checking videos. So what, are you expected to sit in office and watch porn for work? What?
Basically, what I'm saying is yes. That's what it was. And even when I applied for this, so when this job interview came by, I had all of these sort of million questions in my head as well. Because the
Yeah.
job role itself was mentioned as hybrid. So I was like, okay, so there are few days that I can do this from home, but there are few days that I'm expected to go into an office to sit
Yeah.
in probably a cubicle and be watching porn
Mm-hmm.
the entire time.
And you're getting paid for it. What?
Yep. So that
Wow.
that that whole thing was bizarre, and of course, because desperate times and like sometimes you
Yeah.
do things for the plot. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm gonna give this interview for the plot of it. Knew that I was not gonna really take that opportunity, but I
Yeah.
just was extremely curious because this is not something that I even thought is a possibility. It's much like how you see those jobs out there being like, oh, you're gonna be an ice cream taster, or you're gonna be like a
Mm,
mattress, all you're gonna do is like sleep on mattresses and like tell the
right.
check quality. It's in my head it sounded like one of those opportunities, right, where it's so bizarre that you
Yeah.
gotta find out.
No, for sure. And did you get any clarity from that interview? Like, I'm sure, like, I have a million questions right now. You must have had at that point as well.
Mm.
So, giving the interview just for thrills, I completely get that. But did you get any clarity out of that interview?
Yes and no. I feel like I had a few questions that I went in with because this entire aspect of doing it from office as a job
Yeah.
was bizarre for me, but I
Uh-huh.
guess that's how it was. It was a
Forget
hybrid role, in
from the
fact.
office, just generally, it's bizarre, I think. No?
Yep. And even just factors like you have to coordinate with your team members to make sure there's not overlapping. I'm like, so I'm discussing with my coworker.
Like, which
I
ones are you
watched this.
watching?
Yeah, I watched
Yeah.
these videos. Which ones are you watching?
And then was there some category tagging too in that I heard? Like,
A
what?
little bit of metadata. Yeah. So it just on
Like,
the whole surface of it was so bizarre that through the interview as well, I had to just like hold in a laugh because I was like,
yeah, like keep a straight
this
face.
This is so weird. Though the one thing that I did want to find out, and I'm pretty sure anyone who's watching this might be curious about, is how much does a job like this pay?
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, I never found that out because
See, and
they didn't reveal it. I asked them a salary band, and they were like,
uh-huh.
at this stage, we don't reveal the salary bands yet."
And did they reject you? Did you reject them?
I think a couple weeks later, I received a rejection from them, but
Oh,
nevertheless, I was not disappointed by it at all
yeah, of
because I was
course.
never gonna take it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course. I mean, but just wanting to know if, you were the one to reject them or they were the ones. Because My understanding is that they didn't want to reveal the salary bands. You didn't get a lot of clarity from it. Like they
Mm-hmm.
didn't know a lot of things either that you asked.
Yep.
So it was kind of new to them as well. Like, what are these questions and how do we answer them, right?
Yeah, there were definitely points in time in the interview when I asked some stuff, and that guy was like, "Yeah, this is a really interesting question you ask." And you know that someone who's interviewing you is not prepared when they straight up like, "Great question. I'll get back to you."
That guy must be really thinking, what am I interviewing for? He must be questioning his life choices at that point. Maybe he also got into that because of desperate times. So who knows?
Pretty much possible. But I think I did a whole bunch of research before I gave that interview on Reddit, and it seems like it's a pretty popular job from an IT POV.
Okay.
But I understand that that would make sense from an IT POV because it definitely is not involving anyone in the IT department watching porn on.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have like marathons of interviews for
Mm-hmm.
one of the big, this one we're not name dropping, but they're one
Mm-hmm.
of the big MNCs out there in marketing, and
Mm-hmm.
they have some big brands. And tell me why that felt like desperate in a different way. Because we've had some conversation offline about it, but our viewers and
Mm-hmm.
listeners haven't heard about it. So let's dive in.
I feel like that whole process, without name dropping, but the whole thing was very simply put a complete shit show in terms of process and procedure.
Mhm.
Was it a role that I was interested in? Yes. Is it a role that I could have done well in? Yes. But at the same time, some companies with their processes, procedures of hiring just tend to intentionally or unintentionally really exploit people who are desperate for jobs in a
Mhm.
way wherein they become extremely inconsiderate of timelines. And that's kind of what I faced, wherein I had an initial interview with the HR, I had a screening round with them.
Mm.
And from there on, it was like, okay, we'll get back to you. A week goes by, 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks go by nearly. I don't
Yeah.
hear from them. With multiple follow ups, nothing works out.
Mhm.
I was asked to create a portfolio website, which I did on the same day as my interview. And I sent it across to them. And they
Yeah.
were like, yeah, cool. We will forward it to the team and you'll hear back from us when you do. And weeks go by, I don't hear from them until one random day I hear from them again, being like, hey, interview setting up for tomorrow. Can you do it? And I was like, oh, sure, I've been waiting for a while, but yeah, I'll do it. Go for it. We set that up. The interview happens, interview goes well. But what I realized through that interview is multiple points of miscommunication had happened through this whole thing,
Mm.
where the job title that I was told by the HR was in a lot of ways misaligned with the position that I was being interviewed for by the hiring manager. So what really happened in this situation is I go into the interview and I'm trying to like position myself as, hey, I have all of these experiences that fit this role, and some parts
Yeah.
of my past experience are not so relevant, but like I have those as well. And the
Mhm.
interviewer at that point in time goes like, wait, so why are you dismissing that experience? Because that is very much a part of this role. Yeah, a complete misalignment from the HR POV wherein they just didn't have clarity themselves. One of another situations where someone who's interviewing you is not fully sure of what's really going on
Mhm.
and they just happen to mislead you. And even the portfolio website that I created for them, it never reached the hiring manager. At the end of the interview, the hiring manager was like,
What's the
hey, can you
point?
share a portfolio? And I was like, I did. Did you not receive it?
Wow. So
So
basically, it was all over the place.
it was all over the place. And then I had that round of interview. And then 10 minutes after that interview, I get a message from the HR being like, hey, next round in the next 30 minutes. Again,
Mm.
throws me off because
Yeah.
how do you go from one screening round to 3 weeks of no contact to tomorrow you have an interview and then go to now in the next 30 minutes you have your next one.
Mm.
And this kind of kept happening over and over again, where I was, in a way, you can say it was a hot and cold situation where they kept getting really hot with
Yeah.
it and they kept doing interviews after interviews after interviews. And then
Mhm.
suddenly they would go completely cold on me for like 2 or 3 weeks of no contact. This eventually dragged itself out to a point of I was stuck in a rut of giving interviews for them for almost 7 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
That's literally
2 months.
2 months of just
Yeah.
follow up interview. And until then, I still didn't get to a point of having my final round because that itself was rescheduled like 3 to 4 times.
For this, there was still a final round left.
Yeah, I was interviewed by at least 6 or 7 people in that organization for this one junior level role, mind you. And that's what I'm talking about, where because it's desperate situations, markets a certain way. Sometimes some companies really tend to exploit that fact and not take into consideration that maybe a junior role doesn't need these many rounds of interviews. Maybe there
Yeah.
is someone just in the company who can take a call and take that leap of faith on someone and just do it. You don't need to stretch it out for 8 to 10 weeks to interview someone for a position that is going to be just bottom of the funnel.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, but definitely happens more often than not, and it's not really spoken about a lot because people think it's normal, right?
It's unfortunate how much it's normalized, but it really takes a toll on anyone who's doing the interview process.
Yeah.
And if there's any HRs out there ever watching this, which the odds of which I have no idea, but please don't torture anyone who you're interviewing for
Yeah.
this long. If you already have sort of made up your mind that a person is not a great fit, don't do it. And if you feel like a person is a good fit, just do it already. It doesn't need to
Yeah.
be 10 weeks of a drawn out process, because I feel like a lot of companies tend to do this where they're looking for this one star out there.
Yeah.
I understand that if a company is looking for a star, when you are looking for someone who's directly joining your top level management and they have to already handle a team of 15 to 20 people. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot more qualities that you need to look for in a
Yeah.
person. But if someone's joining at a junior level, if they fit the job criteria, there shouldn't be a reason why you can't just take the leap and proceed with it. What do you think, Sakshi?
I've, and this is another episode where we'll dive into the details that I've had with
Yeah,
my
yeah, for sure.
desperate jobs. And without giving too much away, yes, there have been situations like that, but I have also, you have not accepted those kind of offers, but I have
Mm-hmm.
accepted some here or there. And when you get into the junior level position, essentially, you can do so much more,
Mm-hmm.
but you just hold back because A, they don't trust you enough. Otherwise, they would have given you a different role.
Yep.
And it's just one of those things where people really have to take a chance on you and they don't.
It's true.
So,
It's true.
definitely desperate times.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on from this story now, which I'm sure a lot of people are going to relate to, you've
Mm-hmm.
even had those sketchy freelance offers, right? Like
Yeah.
from LinkedIn, or was it somewhere else?
It was LinkedIn. And again, because I kind of am one who believes that, sure, desperate times is a thing, exists. You have to
Mm,
take whatever you get. But I'm one to kind of personally still try and filter out what is like too desperate and what's not.
yeah.
And in those situations where I had this like one random person on my LinkedIn who reached out to me in my DMs, no mutual connections, no nothing. Complete
Hmm.
blind reach out, goes like, hey, I'm working on this project and I wanted to come on board as a freelance person to help me with my marketing. And I
Oh.
was like, okay, I have no context to what you do. What do I do?
Mm-hmm.
Simply, I go to their profile. I see the person has like some random animated image as their profile image. I see in terms of their work that they've done, there's not much to show already.
Hmm.
So I'm already kind of over the fence about it, being like, hey, credibility has taken a hit for this person
Zero.
because they've not really shown themselves as
Yeah.
someone who is trustworthy.
Especially on a platform like LinkedIn. What?
Yeah. So already I'm a little suspicious about it. But this person seemed super persistent to the point where they started setting up like, hey, let's meet in person one on one as our first conversation. I was like, I already have no idea about your credibility. You are making me
Yeah.
meet you in person. We could do this on a Zoom call or coffee chat, whatever that is. Just do it
Yeah.
online if you're meeting me for the first time with no context. I don't even know if both of us are a good fit for a project like that. So to meet in person and with a complete stranger who doesn't even have a face on there is it's
Yeah.
almost scary.
Yeah, it's a safety concern. It's not just about credibility here, it's a safety concern.
And even the location that they were asking me to meet them was like on some far off end of the city in
Huh.
some restaurant or cafe that is by a highway, no means for me to get to by public transport.
Shady.
Yeah, a little sketch. So I just kept kind of pushing it. I suggested a few locations that were closer and more accessible to me because I was still not fully closed off to the idea of it.
Yeah.
But that
It's
person
desperate
just
times.
right. But
Yeah.
that person didn't seem too keen on taking up any of my suggestions. Eventually, just led to a point of me making an excuse and getting out of that situation. Because, again, what's desperate and what's too desperate, if there's a safety concern involved, it's
Yeah.
better to kind of just steer away from it altogether.
Wow, I mean, this is super scary. I mean, people reach out on LinkedIn. I mean, not all the time, but
Mm-hmm.
I've had I've heard from friends as well where people have reached out, but they've always sort of adjusted to whatever and meet like somewhere in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Not like literally in the middle terms of location, but just for the situation. So this is very sketch. Did you also have like some WhatsApp scam or something where some job thing?
These are way too common out here in Canada. Like I'm definitely not the only one who gets these. But there
Yeah.
are so many random WhatsApp reach outs that happen from company almost to a point where I have friends and myself who just start messing around with these people now because this happens every couple of weeks, even being like, hey,
Oh,
we are a recruiter from XYZ company. We have a job offer for you. And
oh,
they'll
you get
just
those on
start being
WhatsApp. I get them on iMessage.
I get them on iMessage and on WhatsApp as well. And these
Ah,
guys
okay.
are just, they're so persistent with
Yeah.
their like pushing, being like, hey, this is going to make you great money. You've got to do this. You've got to do this. You know,
Mm.
you can make so much money per hour and blah, 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 blah. They just go on and on and on and on about it. If you try
Mm-hmm.
to question them about their credibility in any way, being like, hey, can you give me a company website? They're like, no,
Yeah.
sorry, we don't have one. I'm like, okay, do you
And
have a LinkedIn of your own? Like, I would like to look you up or your company up on
yeah.
LinkedIn. They're like, no, we as a company prefer that we keep our communication very like private and short, like very easy communication flow. So we don't do LinkedIn, we don't do website, we don't. I'm like, okay, at this point, fuck you. I'm just gonna start messing with you. I have a little bit
Mm.
of free time. I'm just gonna start doing this, and I have a lot of friends who have the same situation where they'll just get
Wow.
these jobs and persistent calls, and not even just messages. I have even friends who have received calls from people being like, "Hey, you need to
Really?
do this right now. You need to do this right now." Follow
Oh,
up
wow.
calls even.
Maybe it's a Quebec thing, like the
It
calls
could
at
be.
least.
It
Because
could be.
I haven't had those calls. I've had iMessages, and then they've not been this persistent though.
No.
Wow.
But out
I
here,
had no
I've seen
idea.
situations of people being super persistent, but it almost becomes a game at this point where you just fuck around with
Mm,
them because just
yeah.
to see who kind of
So
backs
it's
out
fun.
first.
It's kind of
Yeah.
you're turning fun out of desperate times, basically. And wasn't there another one where you received an interview invite and then they ghosted you?
And then they ghosted me. I feel like this has happened so many times that it's far too much to even recollect. Uh,
This was one
eh,
in Toronto, I believe. You were all ready
oh,
to travel.
this wasn't the ghosting. Ghosting has
Oh, it
happened way too
wasn't?
much. No, no,
Of
no,
course,
no,
I
no, no.
mean, job
Yeah,
growth
okay.
and ghosting go hand in hand.
Now that you say it, there was ghosting, definitely. But that was almost the last step of it. I think what was funnier in this whole process is that this was a job that I had applied to. Again, one of those situations. You're applying for a million jobs because everything comes
Yeah.
in terms of
Mm-hmm.
an application. So I sent it in, and I think a week, 2 weeks go by, and I received this email, the classic one, being like, unfortunately, we've decided to not go ahead with your profile, but thank you so
Right.
much for applying,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. And I'm like, okay, cool. I guess this is done and I don't need to think about it. And another week or two passed by and I received this random call on one random afternoon from,
Mm-hmm.
at that point in time, I didn't know who it was. So
Mm-hmm.
I pick up the call. It says unknown number, but it roughly mentions that it's
Yeah.
from Ontario.
Okay.
And I take the call and this person starts like not even really interviewing me, but they're just like, hey, I'm so and so calling from so and so. And because they really went by it so quickly,
Always.
I barely picked up on who they were or what
Always.
they were talking about. Because you're in the situation where you're just caught off guard, sometimes your brain doesn't really function to be like, hey, I can
Mm-hmm.
actually be in a position to be like, I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Can you repeat yourself?
Yeah.
But because in my head, I was like, I've applied to 10,000 jobs. They'll probably send me an email at some point, right after this call or something. Or maybe I'll try to lead them into saying their name or the company's name again. And that didn't really happen through that call. But they happened to just tell me being like, hey, so we've set up an interview for you for this role in person on so and so date. Can you be there in person?
Yeah.
Not mentioning the city, not mentioning it clearly enough the name of the company or their name or their title. So
Yeah.
all I got from that call was, I
Date and
have an
time.
interview in person on this day, on this time. And I was like, sure, I think I'll go ahead with it. Let's see what it is.
Yeah.
10 minutes later, I receive an email from this person being like, hey, the interview is for this company and it's in person in Toronto. Again,
Okay.
reminder for those who are watching probably for the first time, I live in Montreal. Sakshi lives in Toronto. So
Yep.
I had plans of even packing my bags up for a couple of days, going there to give this interview.
Yeah.
And this interview, mind you, was 48 hours from the time I received that call. So I was like, you know what? Screw it.
Logistics.
I guess it is. Even if it takes $200 to $300 to give this interview, I'll just do it.
It's not even
And
about the money at that point. It's also logistics.
it's not. But yeah, again, desperate times. So like any interview, I'll take it. I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, before I proceed with booking my travel, I'm seeing the name of the company. I go back to my own emails and I'm like, wait a second. This company has already sent me a rejection before. How is it that they're reaching out to me? And they've sent me a rejection not even at the screening level. They
Oh,
have had no contact with them before this.
so it's those
And the
automated rejections.
yeah, one of those automated rejections. And then the email that I received from them saying that this is second round interview with this company. So
Mm,
my brain goes
2
like,
plus 2, 5?
when was the first?
Yeah.
I was so confused by it all because I was like, sure, do I want to give this interview? Yes. Is this a company I
Hmm.
applied to? Yes. Is it a role
Yeah.
that I looked at? Yes. But
Mm.
something's just not adding up here.
Right.
There's
Wow.
someone who's messed up, and I don't want to be in a situation where I get there and then they're like,
Yeah.
shit, sorry,
Not
we're not
you.
expecting you.
Yeah.
So then I
Wow.
sent an hour later, I called you up frantically, being like, I don't know what to do. And
Yeah.
then I landed up sending the HR an email, being like fully honestly explaining the entire situation, being like, I
Uh-huh.
did apply for this role. I am
Yeah.
interested in it. I unfortunately received a rejection email from you guys 2 weeks ago. And
Mm.
now you've called me saying that it's second round interview. So something's
Yeah.
not adding up. Can you just help me clarify this situation? If you
Uh-huh.
need me to give a first round interview right now, I'm more than happy to do that as well. If you want me
Yeah.
to still be there for this, I can still be there. I can work things around if you want me
Mm-hmm.
to. I just need you to clarify things for me. 20 minutes later, this person just goes in, cancels the meeting invite. No response,
Oh,
no context, just completely cancelled.
so they realized they fucked up.
They did, but that's the thing, right? If you've realized you fucked up, own up to it. And especially when it's not like a company mail chain where you have 10 other people on this meeting invite
Yeah.
as well. It's
You
just
just
you and me.
reply and be like,
It's just you
sorry,
and me.
bro, canceling by mistake, something like that, right?
There was none of it. I followed up for a
Wow.
second time that evening, being like, hey, I see you've cancelled the meeting invite. Can you let me know what's really happened over here? Because this
Yeah.
is a little strange at this point in time. Would
Mm.
appreciate open communication. Nothing. That was the last I ever heard from them. But it's so weird that they decide to just randomly make a mistake, call someone in person to an interview. My portfolio profile, whatever, clearly already said I'm in Montreal. They had no thinking of that as well,
Mm.
and no accountability for mistake.
Doesn't surprise me, but there's definitely things that we can learn from and improve here in terms of like the processes.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot that doesn't get spoken about and just gets brushed under the rug as normal, but it really isn't. And even when you weren't applying for jobs, you were seeing desperation around you, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
randomly in that restaurant.
Yeah, and I feel like that was a very, how do I say, it was in some ways very sweet to see because
Mm.
it took me back to, in some ways, my early days as well in my career.
Yeah.
And while it was that, at the same time, I acknowledged my own desperate times while seeing that. But I was like, hey, I could
Mm-hmm.
maybe do this, but also what he's doing is very similar to what I've done before.
Mm.
So what it was that I had just gone for a random lunch with my roommate to a restaurant and we're just sitting there having our meal. And this one guy walks in like with his nice like backpack, fully in like a shirt, sits down at the table, opens his laptop, and I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued because he's sitting right at the table by me, and it looks like there's some sort of a meeting that's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite things to do if I'm in a social situation and if I'm not having an active conversation with someone is my ears will start getting to what's happening
Yeah,
at
I
the
mean
next
that's
table.
only natural.
Eavesdropping to me is so much fun. So that's exactly what I start doing. And I start noticing that this person is actually here to do a whole marketing pitch for the owner of the restaurant who's sitting across the table from him. They're discussing like what the strategy should be, what are the price
Wow.
points that they can offer, what kind of content he can create for them.
Mm.
And I was like, this is on desperate times, yes, for him, but it's honestly
Yeah.
inspiring for me to see where I'm like,
Mm.
it doesn't, you don't always have to be reliant of on getting a job from the outside. If you can make yourself self-reliant in these
Yeah.
situations, nothing's better than that.
Create an opportunity for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. And talking about like creating that opportunity for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
there was also one where you tried doing that for yourself with Audio Technica.
Yep. And that's a role I was genuinely at some point in time very excited for, because it was a
Mm-hmm.
great opportunity to work with a brand that is well known in the audio space
Yeah.
altogether. And funnily enough, I think when my interview, when our podcast came up with them, because they were
Yeah.
curious about what audio equipment I'm using for our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but how that interview even came into play is a story of its own, where it starts off as a pretty much like a regular process. Applied for this job.
Yeah.
This was on Indeed, got connected with the HR, had a screening round
Mm-hmm.
with them. And then it just so happened that the process after that, unlike what I faced in that other advertising company, was that it got stretched out, but not
Mm.
stretched out in a way wherein I was having multiple conversations with them.
Yeah.
It was just stretched out in a way wherein the response that I just consistently got from them was, hey, we're not actively interviewing at this moment. Our team is currently traveling, so we'll get back to you when we can. 2 weeks go by, I do my regular follow up, and
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, no, we still don't have a response. We'll get back to you when we can.
Hmm.
4 weeks go by, still, we'll get back to you when we can. 6 weeks go by, it's the
Oh.
same story. And finally, I think at the 8 week mark ish, I just had like a last ditch effort with them where I was like,
Hmm.
hey, I'm just gonna drop them a message being like, I completely understand if you're not hiring at this moment, and we can just close this conversation if you need, and just let me know what it is. Surprisingly enough, that is when I heard from them for the next round of interview. And
Interesting.
that really made me think that, okay, if 8 weeks in they've just been like, we have to get back, we'll get back, we'll get back, we'll get back,
Mm-hmm.
there's very less chances that they're interviewing 10 other people at that same time, because in that case they would have told me that the interview process is currently underway and we'll get back to you
Yeah.
once it's your turn to get into the line.
Yeah.
But to me, how I perceive it is that the only way I got that interview is a story of persistence, where had I not persistently followed up with them because of my interest in the role, I would have probably
Hmm.
never heard from them again.
Yeah, that makes sense because you stayed top of mind by following up.
So that's one thing that I feel like I would want to give as a takeaway to anyone who's in the job market right now, looking for jobs out there, and you feel like, I guess I'm really interested in this role, but I just got to give it up because it's just I'm not getting a response.
Mm.
It's completely fine to be persistent. It's
Oh,
not
yeah.
going to look as too desperate. Sure, you're going to feel too desperate because you probably don't have anything in hand at that point
Yeah.
in time, but sometimes there are some companies that I guess tend to really value someone who is constantly pursuing them because they see the fire in that person to take up that.
No, for sure. And desperate times make you do desperate interviews. Some end up
Mm-hmm.
in scams, some in stories, and some in actual jobs. So the
Mm-hmm.
moral of the story really is desperation is universal, but it doesn't have to define you.
100%. I feel like I could end up with that better.
And with that, that is all we have for you in this episode. We'll be waiting in comments for you to guess the kind of jobs that Varun spoke about. Some of y'all
Mm-hmm.
may have skipped ahead, and that's fine, but comment and let us know what you thought about this episode, and we'll see y'all next week. Bye.
Bye.